Hello friends, in this video I will be discussing about the 14-point deal reached between US and Iran to end the war in West Asia, right. So, we will be discussing about the various points and what it implies for peace in West Asia. So, this deal between Iran and US, it brings to an end the 3-month long war in West Asia in the Strait of Hormuz area. Now, under the first point, both the sides have decided for an immediate and permanent end to war on all fronts including Lebanon. Now, this is important because Israel has continued to strike Lebanon despite the ceasefire between US and Iran. So, this is very important that now Lebanon is also included in the peace deal. Next point in the 14-point agreement is about Iran and US undertaking to respect each other's sovereignty and territorial integrity and refraining from interference in internal affairs of each other. Now, this basically rules out any kind of forced regime change in Iran in future, which was one of the objectives of US and Israel when they launched an attack on Iran, right. So, this is very significant that now US has committed to not interfering in the internal affairs of Iran. So, this is very significant for Iran and US relations going forwards. The third point in the 14-point deal is about Iran and US undertaking to negotiate and reach a final agreement within 60 days. And this timeline is extendable by mutual consent between both sides. So, this is the interim agreement and a final agreement will be reached, though they have decided on all the major points, but yes, the final details have to be worked out, which will be done within the next 60 days. So, in 2 months they will finalize the peace deal. Next important point is that US will lift the naval blockade on Iran and Iran will ensure that the traffic of ships will be proportional to the pre-war volume of traffic, right. So, US had blockaded Iran, so that blockade will be lifted and Iran will also ensure that the volume of ships traffic which was there before the hostilities broke out, that will be restored, right. So, this will lead to energy prices coming down and also it will allow reopening of Strait of Hormuz, through which 1/5 of the world's oil and gas used to transit daily before the hostilities broke out. Next point is that Iran will remove any mines or other obstacles to commercial shipping. And next point is US and its regional partners will create a comprehensive plan for rehabilitation and economic development of Iran, ensuring financing of at least $300 billion. How this money will be raised, that is still not very clear. US officials have stated that none of this amount will come from US directly. They will ask the Gulf partner countries to actually chip in. So, the details remains to be worked out, but yes, Iran will get some kind of rehabilitation plan amounting to $300 billion. Next point is that US commits to ending all types of sanctions on Iran as part of the final agreement. So, there will be a schedule which will be followed for removing the sanctions which have been imposed by US on Iran. And Iran will commit to never producing nuclear weapons. This is very important that Iran under this deal is committing to never produce the nuclear weapons. The existing enriched nuclear material and other nuclear related issues will be addressed in the final agreement. So, they have not been addressed right now, but yes, they will be addressed in the final agreement. Then pending a final agreement, both sides will maintain status quo, right. Till a final agreement is reached, both sides will maintain their positions. That means US will not impose any more sanctions on Iran and Iran will also not undertake any enrichment of nuclear fuel. Then 10th point is that Iran can restart its fuel and petroleum economy. That means it will be allowed to export its oil and natural gas, which is very important for Iran because its economy has been reeling under sanctions by US for a long time. Now 11th point is that the frozen or restricted funds and assets of Iran will also be released by US. Approximately they range between $24 billion to $100 billion. Exact figure is not known. So this amount will also be released by US. And finally, a monitoring mechanism will be put in place to ensure that both sides uphold their commitments under this agreement, the 14-point peace deal. Next point is that neither side will negotiate the final agreement covering nuclear commitments, sanctions lifting schedule and rehabilitation plan until articles 4, 5 and 10 and 11 are already in motion. Now these four agreements or 4 points are basically 3 points are US obligations and 1 point is Iran obligation. So Iran's obligation is to clear the Strait of Hormuz and remove the mines, right? Re-allow traffic on Strait of Hormuz. That is Iran's obligation. 3 obligations of US under this are lifting the blockade on Iran, issuing oil export waivers for Iran, and also releasing the frozen assets of Iran. So all of this have to be done by US. Now this is the 14-point agreement between US and Iran. But what still remains unclear in this 14-point agreement are 2 important points. One is the Israel's stand on Lebanon. Like what is Israel going to do about Lebanon? Because even though this ceasefire was active, Israel has continued to attack Hezbollah in Lebanon. So whether Israel will follow through with this peace deal or not, that remains an open question. The other issue is about the toll or levy that Iran has said that it will impose on traffic through the Strait of Hormuz. Now whether a toll will be collected by Iran on the traffic passing through Strait of Hormuz, that remains unclear in this agreement, and Iran has stated that it may do so after the 60 days of this agreement negotiation are over. So these 2 points remain unclear as of now, that what will be Israel's stand on Lebanon, and the other is what is Iran's stand on the toll that it plans to impose on Strait of Hormuz traffic. Now finally, let's look at what actually happened in this 3 months war, whether US achieved any of its objectives or not. So it is very clear that US launched this military strike along with Israel on Iran with objective to bring about a regime change in Iran, to destroy the nuclear and missile capabilities of Iran, and to end Iran's support for non-state actors such as Hamas in Gaza and Hezbollah in Lebanon. But it has failed to achieve all these objectives. There is no regime change in Iran. In fact, the regime has become more hardline. The nuclear and missile capabilities of Iran are still part of the negotiations only, right? And there is no clarity as such on achieving this objective also. Then the third thing, that about ending Iran's support for non-state actors, that also remains unclear. Yes, Iran's position has been weakened, but obviously it still provides support to these organizations, non-state actors. Now, when Israel and US had launched this attack on Iran on February 28, they had named their operations. Israel had named the operation as Operation Roaring Lion, and US had named it as Operation Epic Fury. In return, Iran's operation was named as Operation True Promise 4, right? Now, in the final analysis, we can say that US has made an error in believing that there could be a military solution to the Iranian nuclear issue, right? That has been a major error by the US strategic establishment. US also underestimated Iran's resolve, strategic depth and geographical advantages in this region, and US had to pay a price for that. Yes, Iran's infrastructure has been destroyed, its supreme leader assassinated, and everything has been done. But US is the superpower and Iran has stood against the superpower, right? So in the final analysis, we can say that Iran has won this war by not losing, while US has lost by failing to achieve its objectives, right? So in a fight between the strong and the weak, the strong is expected to win, but if the weak can hold off the attack or can ensure that he is not losing, then it can be seen as a victory of the weaker side. So this is the situation in this case. Now let's look at a question. You can write your answer in the comment. I'll read the question. The question is, the non-state actor Hezbollah operates mainly in which country? The options are Iran, Syria, Lebanon and Iraq. So you can write your answer in the comment section. I'll see you in another video with another issue. Thank you.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.